In a remark that has sent shockwaves across South Africa's political landscape, President Cyril Ramaphosa has allegedly admitted that the country was better back then than it is today. While the exact context of his statement is still being debated, political analysts, citizens, and opposition leaders are already dissecting its meaning and questioning what it reveals about the president's own leadership and the state of the nation. According to reports circulating from insiders close to a closed-door ANC gathering, Ramaphosa was reflecting on South Africa's journey since the dawn of democracy in 1994. In his words, he allegedly contrasted the optimism and hope that characterized the early years of freedom with the frustration and disillusionment dominating today's political atmosphere. The phrase, better back then, is now being interpreted as a blunt acknowledgment that the country is facing deeper crises than it did in the past. For ordinary South Africans, such a statement resonates on multiple levels. Many citizens recall an era when the cost of living was lower, job opportunities were more accessible, and corruption had not yet hollowed out key institutions. Today, unemployment remains at staggering highs, inequality continues to widen, and load shedding has become a defining feature of daily life. If the president indeed conceded that conditions have deteriorated, it is seen by some as a rare moment of honesty in a political environment often dominated by sugar-coated promises. However, critics argue that Ramaphosa's words highlight his failure to turn the tide since taking office. The president campaigned on a platform of renewal, promising to clean up corruption and stabilize the economy. Yet 6 years later, the same challenges remain, and in some cases, have worsened. Opposition parties like the DA and EFF were quick to pounce on the alleged statement, with DA officials saying it confirms what South Africans already know, that the ANC government has run out of ideas and run the country into the ground. At the same time, Ramaphosa's defenders caution against taking the remarks out of context. They argue that the president may have been trying to spark introspection within the ANC, urging leaders to recapture the spirit of service, unity, and sacrifice that once defined the liberation movement. Seen in that light, his comment might not have been an admission of defeat, but rather a challenge to the ruling party to confront its failures and reclaim its credibility. Still, the timing of this revelation could not be worse for the president. With factional battles intensifying within the ANC, whispers of succession plans for 2027 already emerging, and public patience running thin, any suggestion that the present is worse than the past risks undermining Ramaphosa's authority. For many, it also raises uncomfortable questions. If even the president himself believes South Africa was better back then, how can citizens trust him to build a better tomorrow? The reaction from the public has been equally divided. On social media, South Africans voiced a mix of anger, agreement, and disappointment. Some praised the president for finally speaking the truth, while others condemned him for sounding detached from his responsibilities. A viral comment on X, formerly Twitter, read, "We didn't need him to tell us things are worse, we live it every day. What we needed was a plan." Analysts warn that this episode could mark a turning point in Ramaphosa's presidency. Whether his words were a slip of the tongue, a moment of brutal honesty, or a strategic political signal, they have exposed a profound sense of disillusionment. They also open the door for rivals, both inside and outside the ANC, to exploit the perception that the president himself has lost faith in his own leadership project. As South Africa braces for the next electoral cycle, the alleged statement may linger in the national consciousness, symbolizing the gap between the promise of democracy and the harsh realities of the present. The big question is whether Ramaphosa can still chart a vision convincing enough to rally both his party and the people, or whether his admission has already sealed the narrative of decline under his watch. For now, the country is left grappling with the president's haunting reflection: was South Africa truly better back then than it is today, and if so, what does that say about the future that lies ahead?